is the Texas weather discussion video for Friday, the 8th day of September. Of course, North Texas will stay dry for the next several days. That's only been the main weather story for North Texas. But needless to say, most of this video will mostly be about the tropics and Hurricane Irma. But first, we'll take a look at the water vapor satellite view, broad brush overview across the CONUS region with heights. You can see we have a big ridge in the west and deep troughing in the northeast states, and that troughing will help pull Irma to the north, and actually pull Irma to the north. But down here where we are, of course, we're in drier weather, but also with very comfortable temperatures this morning. Arlington 55, Weatherford 58, and Denton 56. We are in the most locations are in the 50s or either in the mid 60s in most locations. Wow, nice fresh breath of fall. But taking a look on the convective outlooks, we have a standard slight risk for severe weather for parts of southern Florida tomorrow. When Irma makes impact, you also have to deal with the feeder bands that can produce these small isolated tornadoes. So there will be a tornado threat along with the damaging wind and the storm surge current threats. And let's just go right into the tropics here. For the first time since 2010, we have three active hurricanes now. Two are major hurricanes. One is Hurricane Katia. We'll get into that. We'll get into that. Hurricane Katia has maximum sustained winds of 90 miles an hour, and this one will not affect the U.S. or Texas at all. This will basically enter Mexico where it can just live its life there. But more than likely, this makes landfall by tonight or during the overnight hours. And here is Hurricane Jose. This is actually intensified to a Category 3 major hurricane over the past 24 hours. Maximum sustained winds are at 125. This will basically once again skirt the northern Leeward Islands, where they have hurricane watches and tropical storm warnings in effect, where they could see some tropical storm force winds with this storm. And once it gets past there, it's basically going to go into open water for a long time. This is the model guidance, and you can see that this basically recurves and just sits in the Atlantic for several days for several days as steering currents decide to collapse. And this will just sit here for several days. The GFS ensemble says the same thing. This will basically get to a point and just really the steering currents will collapse and will just sit in the Atlantic Bay for a very long time. But after that we don't know where this will go. We don't know if this will try to drive to the west again, or we don't know if this will just go out into the northern Atlantic. It's still too early to tell. With all these solutions. So let's take a look at Irma. Irma has actually weakened just a very tad bit. It's just a very slightly tad bit. It's still a very dangerous Category 5 hurricane that's going to affect everybody in its path, but maximum sustained winds are down to 155 miles an hour. That's a good improvement since last time. But you can see all the hurricane watches and warnings in effect for basically northern Cuba, all of the Bahamas region, and also all of southern Florida, where they're basically prepared to almost take a direct hit from this thing. As we've said many times before. Many times before. And the model guidance basically says the same thing as the GFS and the European. Southern Florida, near Miami and Lake Okeechobee, basically will most likely take a direct hit from this thing. And the GFS ensemble basically mostly all the models say the same thing, that South Florida is basically under the gun in the worst case scenario. Now the GFS mean here actually kind of wants to take this near Savannah, Georgia, and then recurve this, get to a point in Tennessee and recurve this back to the northeast. So, so the bottom line is everybody that's in southern Florida and parts of Georgia, parts of Georgia, southern Georgia, most likely need to basically need to complete their hurricane preparations. Please heed evacuation orders from the government officials because this is a situation not to play around with. So these are the warning. These are the warnings here, and you can see that hurricane warnings are in effect for basically all of southern Florida, the South Florida coast, and also including Lake Okeechobee. And storm surge warnings are in effect for basically Miami, the Everglades, basically the Everglades and Bonita Springs, and some of the adjacent areas, West Palm Beach, where they could see some dangerous storm surge here. So this hurricane is nothing to play around with. Please heed evacuation warnings from your local officials. So let's go to the dailies here. This is the GFS. This is the 06Z run, valid today at 1 o'clock at 500 millibars. Heights are actually starting to come up. We still have troughing in the northeast states, and down below that, we're still going to stay dry again with highs in the mid 80s here. A very nice and pleasant day for high school football games to this evening and tonight. And you can see Hurricane Katia and Irma side by side right there. And this is Saturday. This is the weekend. Again, we're expected to stay dry with highs in the mid to upper 80s. And here's our Hurricane Irma nearing the Florida coast, and this is actually this is Sunday afternoon at 1 o'clock. You can see Hurricane Hurricane Irma is basically making landfall at this point, still a very dangerous hurricane in southern Florida. And this is 18Z on Monday at 1 o'clock, and you can see this hurricane is basically somewhere near Waycross, Douglas, or Valdosta, Georgia, or Tifton, Georgia, or somewhere around those areas. And by Tuesday afternoon, the remnant circulation of Irma is basically somewhere between Alabama and Tennessee. So, but let's go to the European models. Even though these are different time slots, but these this is just to show that the GFS and European basically agree on this major hurricane affecting southern Florida, basically directly affecting Miami and the Lake Okeechobee and those adjacent areas. So this is Sunday evening. Hurricane is basically on top of southern Florida right now, and this is Tuesday. No, this is Monday. This is Monday evening. Basically, the hurricane is on top of Mason, Georgia, very close to Atlanta, but not affecting. But remnant circulation by Tuesday evening is somewhere in Alabama or Tennessee. So really, the bottom line is those of you that are in southern Florida, basically all of southern and central Florida parts, and the southern parts of Georgia need to really rush and finish their hurricane preparations. Okay, don't wait on this. By the time, if you wait on this, by the time it's really time to evacuate, it's really too late. So heed these evacuation warnings here. So let's go out to the end of the forecast period real quick. This is Sunday, September the 17th. Heights are starting to come up. We are in a ridge, and with that, we're trending dry. But let's look at the numbers for the next 7 days. Wow, we're expected to stay below 90 degrees for until Monday. We should warm back up by Tuesday and Thursday. But I think we should enjoy this fall-like weather while we can here. That's it for the Texas weather discussion video today. I'll have more notes in the blog. The next video here will be at 7 a.m. Monday morning of next week. If you can, catch your local TV stations on the air at 4, 5, 6, and 10 o'clock. Thanks for watching. Make it a great day. Have a great weekend, and Godspeed.